Hello and welcome to the show. I am Mary Grace. This is the Mary Grace Show, the voice of sanity to help you navigate politics, culture, wellness, faith, and world events. I have with me this evening a return guest. Some of you may recognize him, some of you may not. I have a lot of new people following me here on the channel. This is Hal Cranmer. He is the owner and founder of a Paradise for Parents, which is a group of retirement homes out in Arizona. And before you tune out and think this doesn't apply to me, stick around because Hal has a unique approach to aging that has helped so many people. And he has incredible testimonials about what he and his team are doing at a Paradise for Parents that will encourage you. And in fact, today's episode is titled MAHA for boomers and beyond. And so we wanna talk about making America healthy, regardless of your age, but in particular for, I would say, Gen X and boomers and beyond. Anybody over 40 who maybe thinks that they don't wanna buy into the mainline, belief that everything is downhill from that point on, and that you're just waiting to die, especially if you go into an assisted living facility. That couldn't be further from the truth. So welcome back to the show. It seems like we might have a little bit of an echo, Hal. Um, if we didn't have it before, is there a speaker somewhere where my voice is coming out in
Maybe
the
should
room?
I get some headphones real quick?
If you
That
have a
help?
headset or, if you hit your settings on the screen there, you may be able to hit echo cancellation. There's a little settings gear and go into audio. Let's see if that works, and otherwise we'll get you some a headset. Um, so it wasn't doing it before we went live. You may have cut your audio.
Okay, I turned it
Okay.
on, but it
Alright, I
it
can hear you
killed all
now.
the sound.
So
Yeah.
alright,
Do you want me
let's
to
just
go
see
get it?
let's see how it goes. Maybe I won't talk too
Okay.
much. We'll let you talk. Um,
Okay.
so go ahead. Just welcome back. Welcome back to the Mary Gray Show. And it's an exciting time. So talk a little bit to us about what you're doing there at your facilities that sets you apart.
Sure. Like you said, I own 4 assisted living facilities. They're actually residential homes that we've converted into assisted living, licensed for 10 residents in each home. If you drive by them, they look like someone's house in a neighborhood. People sometimes call them group homes. But we have caregivers there 24/7. And we've got cooks, and we try to serve people a low carbohydrate, ketogenic, or carnivore diet. We have a bunch of other therapies, and my big goal is to kill the entire assisted living industry, make everyone live at home for their entirety of their lives and die in their own bed at home. Hopefully after a good day of spending time with their family. So,
Mm,
um, but in the meantime, I'm a long way from that goal. We want to try to make people as healthy as possible. We've sent people
yeah,
home. We sent 8 or 9 people home that no longer needed assisted living. They got healthy
amazing.
enough. And then also, even if we can just get them out of bed or get them out of their wheelchair, get them off their walker, and be able to go out with their family, spend a weekend with them, go on vacation with them, spend the Christmas holidays, spend the Thanksgiving holidays instead of the family coming to my home. The family comes and picks up their resident and spends some time with them at home. And they just feel better. It makes it easier on my caregivers to take care of them.
Mhm.
Everyone's happy, and I'm wanted to create a niche because I was really quite disgusted with what I saw in the general assisted living world, where it was put them in front of the TV and push medications down their throat.
Sure, exactly. And this is something that I'm passionate about. As you know, I'm caregiver for my stepdad. He's 87, and I'm the primary caregiver. We do have another family member here who is an incredible help. We get help that comes into the home from the VA, but it's the bulk of it, the responsibility, the scheduling, all of that. That's what I do, and our family is committed to making sure that our dad stays at home. And it really does go against the grain, doesn't it? It's amazing to me, especially in the US, that there's this automatic belief that people will just go into assisted living and then that it's a very short time from that transition until they die. In fact, my mom passed away in 2020, and I became the sole caregiver of my stepdad. We call him our dad. But somebody was talking to me about that with about a year later. I was out with him and just having a casual conversation, and the person that I was talking to, when they found out that he was our stepdad, they were surprised that we were taking care of him. And I said, "Why would you be surprised?" They said, "Well, most people would put a step parent in a home and just be done with it." And it was ju I didn't even have a grid for that. I was like,
Good for
You
you.
did are you making this up? Is this really that's the norm? That's what people do?" And and even when he had a stroke last fall, our goal from day 1 was to get him out of the hospital, to get him into acute rehab if he needed it, if it was warranted, and home. And every single day, that was what we talked to him about. We showed him videos and pictures and just, gave him an image and an idea of what it would be like to be home again doing the things that he loved doing. We had photos and videos and everything just going 24/7 for him. And he's home, you know? It's
Awesome.
hard, but let's talk about, your situation because, you are helping so many people, and now we're in the on the dawn of a new health movement in America, and I wanna hear about your involvement with that. What is it that you're doing? How are you connected? I know that you were in DC for inauguration,
Yep.
and tell us what happened and how that all transpired.
Okay, certainly. I did a podcast maybe a year and a half ago with Sean Baker. I don't know if you know who he
Yeah,
is, but he's a big
yeah,
carnivore buff doctor
yep.
guy.
He
And
interviewed me actually
oh,
recently.
awesome.
Yeah, and
Very
he
cool.
was on here and then he interviewed me, so I'll be
Very
on his
cool.
show.
He's a
Mhm.
great guy.
Yeah.
So, from that podcast, a guy named Dr. Eric Berg saw me on the
Yeah.
podcast. He's a big YouTube doctor that
Mhm.
has a lot of really good videos. I highly recommend him. Reached out to me. We talked for a bit. Nothing really came of it. And then maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, he reached out to me again and said, "Hey, I'm going to this MAHA event in DC for the inauguration, and I'd like to sort of promote what you're doing for assisted living. We have a chance to really shake up all of the
Mhm.
medical industry, and I think you'd
Yeah.
be a great one to do it with assisted living." So I was like, "Yeah, I would love to do that."
Uh-huh.
So, so he said, "Send me an email with case studies, testimonials, data, potential solutions, what you see wrong with the assisted living." So
Mhm.
I reached out to a bunch of people who helped me with my mission in my assisted living, nutritionists, consultants,
Right.
people like that are experts in dementia and care and nutrition. And I said, "Give me your best testimonials, case studies." Same thing Eric told me to do. So he compiled all of that into a uh, big email and sent it to him. And then on Tuesday, a week ago from today, I guess, or 2 weeks from today, he called me up and said, "Hey, one of the people I was bringing to the event dropped out. Would you like to go?" And I was like, "Wow, yeah." My parents live in Virginia, so I just had
Mhm.
seen them over the holidays, so it was a chance to go see them as well. But, so I bought a plane ticket, rented a tuxedo, and flew out to DC.
It's great.
Um, yeah, and he hosted a dinner at a local restaurant. on Sunday before the
Yeah.
inauguration, and I got to meet some fantastic people in the health space, including Nina Teicholz. I don't know if you know her, but
No.
she may be responsible for rewriting the FDA food guidelines if RFK Jr. gets in and has his way. She's a very great nutritionist that's very much a low carb advocate and is probably going to turn that food pyramid upside down. And it was very complimentary because she said, I follow you on Twitter, and every time I'm feeling down, I watch your success stories and it cheers me up. So
Oh, that's
it's nice to
great.
know I got some decent followers. Not
Sure.
that I think all my followers are decent, I just, some big time, I should say. Um, so then Monday night we went to the ball and the gala. I met all kinds of wonderful people. I got to meet RFK, but he was surrounded by Secret Service and other people, so I couldn't really talk to him. Thomas Massey, I met, talked to him for
Okay.
a while. Dr. Oz was there, and then a bunch of people. I don't know if your audience knows, but Joel Salatin, one
I
of my
was just gonna
heroes.
ask, was he there? I would love
Yeah.
to interview him,
In
yeah.
fact, I rode in the limo. I'll see if I can reach out to him and get
Oh,
him on
yeah. I'd love to
your,
talk to him. He lives
all
near
right.
near us. He's about, an hour and a half, I think, from where we
Oh,
are. Yeah, I
okay.
actually I have a friend who is a distribution point for his, eggs and beef.
Oh, wow.
Right, so I'm actually gonna be getting some in a couple days here. So,
Fantastic.
Polyface, yeah, yeah, his books
Okay.
for anyone who's listening, Joel Salatin, Salatin, if you want to understand the regenerative farming movement, the ideas that drive a lot of what RFK is getting at with in terms of food, I would highly recommend that you get his books. At least one of his books on Audible he narrates himself. And so it's fascinating, and he has a very approachable style. It doesn't feel like you're reading some kind of dissertation about farming. Uh, he's very personable, and so I do recommend that everybody listen to him. Okay, we got on a little
I talked to
tangent.
him extensively, and he is an extremely nice person. So is his wife.
Yeah.
But also, let's see who else did I meet. I met Paul Saladino, another
Oh,
big
yeah.
carnivore
Yeah.
doctor. Sherry Tenpenny was there, Del
Yes.
Bigtree from COVID days.
Yeah.
It felt like a freedom party from COVID, from the lockdowns. Everyone who was fighting the lockdowns was there, it seemed like. Rob
Yeah.
Schneider got up and did some stand-up.
Oh, he's good.
The British guy with the beard, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He was there and gave a speech. Jordan Peterson was there, Michaela Peterson. I
Okay.
was on her podcast a while ago. They both live in Scottsdale near me now. And
Okay.
it just felt like, hey, these are the heavy hitters in the carnivore, low carb health, take charge of your own health space, and
Yeah.
they were all
Yeah.
behind RFK, and it felt like if there ever was a time that we're going to change healthcare in America, this is it. And
That's
hopefully he'll
exciting.
get pushed across the finish line and get nominated, and then I think you're going to see some big changes. I didn't get any job offers or anything like that out there, but I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and stay in
Yeah.
touch with people. One thing that'd be interesting for your audience to know, I reached out to the head of the founder of this software startup that I use their software to run my assisted living homes,
Okay.
and asked him for data, and he pulled a random sampling of 100 people in assisted living homes, no names or attributions, HIPAA
Mhm. Mhm.
compliant, everything like that. But from the data, he of those 100 people in those assisted living homes, and I don't know what parameters he used, the average number of medications people were taking was 47. And they had a guy who was on 91 medications.
What?
Yeah, at an
What?
assisted living home.
How are
So
these
to get
people
an idea of how
functioning?
much they drug people, there you go. I mean, just the caregiver's responsibility to try to manage 90 medications when
Mm,
they've got 8, 10, 15 other people that they're taking care of is insane. I mean, there's no way that person's getting the medications as
no.
advertised
No,
every
no, no,
day.
no, no. No, and I'll tell you something, the it's so exciting, where we are, and I think the more it's not gonna happen overnight, especially I think with the elderly, it's a little bit more of an uphill push, but having knowing that that people like this are behind this and on board and understanding and that they will be driving policy is so encouraging. And when you talk about medication, you and I were talking beforehand a little bit about this, especially with anybody, I think, over 60, which is crazy because I'm gonna be 60 in March. But
I'm right behind you.
yeah, so it's crazy, but when our dad was in the hospital, he had a stroke, and that was really intense, but it was evident early on that everything was, handled with medication, that their system only had one grid for dealing with any complication, whether it was sleep, whether it was anxiety, whether it was, uh bowel movements, I mean, you name it, right? Every bodily function, there's a medication, and I remember one night, my dad, he was having some hospital delirium, and it's a real thing, but, you can go on Google and find out what are the major contributors to it, and, of course, one of them is just being in a hospital and being in an unfamiliar setting, having, different caregivers, every day, things like that, and then also their circadian rhythm gets messed up, right? And
Right.
one of the things that happened was that one night I was at the hospital, but I was just kinda hanging out, like, out at my car because it's so chaotic in the hospital. But I
Yeah.
told them, he was asleep, and I said, "Look, anything happens, call me. Like, I'm in here in 5 minutes."
Mhm.
And they called me, and it was, like, 2 in the morning, and I came in, and he had been in delirium, and I got him calmed down, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't know until the next morning that they had given him another dose of sedative, Seroquel. They were already giving it to him at, like, it turns out, like, 6 or 7 in the evening, and,
Mhm.
long story short, the next day, he was barely he could barely wake up, like, you could barely wake him up. And I was talking to the doctor, and I said, "This is not good." I said, "Because I want him doing therapy. He can't even wake up enough to stand up when physical therapy comes. So how are we going to get him rehabbed if he can't move?" And she said, serious, like, unironically, she goes, "Well, you know, I don't understand, I don't understand how else we could help him because," she said, What do you do for him at home? Like, what does he take to sleep at home?" I said, "I'll tell you what he takes to sleep. It's called fresh air, sunshine,
Yeah.
healthy diet, and exercise." And I
Yeah.
said, "He's busy all day long. He's in the garden, he's walking, we go swimming, we go fishing, like, we're busy."
You wear
And
'em out.
so I said, "By the time he's ready for bed, he sleeps all night." I said,
Mhm.
"That's what he takes." And I said, "What you do here is not normal. This is
Mm.
weird. It's weird. It's weird that you're not letting him see the light of day." "Well, he has a big window." I said, "That's not
No.
daylight. It's
No.
weird that you won't let us put him in a wheelchair and take him outside, and that you're telling us that's a liability. That's not the way normal people live." And I mean, it was crazy because 'cause I'm standing there talking to a highly educated person, but dumb, just not smart when it came to these things. And my point is, especially we saw a pattern with him being elderly, and that is that they just kinda didn't wanna fool with them, right?
Mhm.
There was a underlying ageist attitude that I don't think we would have seen if he were a 50-year-old with a stroke. I think
Right.
that there would have been an aggressive push to get
Mhm.
him rehabbed and to get PT in and all of that, and as it is, we were pushing every day. get PT in here, get him up, get him walking. And then on the weekends, it was a fight, constant fight. The nurses were telling us, "Oh, we're understaffed," while they're sitting at their computers, right?
Or
And
on
I'm
their
going,
phone.
"You're just sitting here."
Mhm.
You have 3 patients to 2 staff members. What do you mean you're understaffed? "Well, we'll get in
Right.
trouble." If I mean, it was anyway. I'm
Well, one of
going
the
on a
things
tangent, but it's the attitude, right? And
right.
and you're seeing that too.
Oh,
What's
yeah, it's
Yeah.
medication. I mean, there's a big push in assisted living homes to put people on hospice. You know, everything from, um once you're on hospice, everything's free, you don't have to pay for incontinence supplies, you don't have to pay for
Mhm.
medical equipment, to,
Right.
the homes love it because you get hospice people coming in, you get extra caregivers, you get a nurse. It makes it easier on the caregivers too, so they're
Yeah.
incentivized to do it.
Yeah.
And hospice is big business, like, um, you know, they don't get rewarded for keeping someone alive. They get re In fact, they're not
Yeah.
allowed by law to provide curative treatments. They can only make people comfortable until they pass away,
Yeah.
basically, and we've
Yeah.
had tons of people come off hospice, like, they come to us on hospice, and we
Mhm.
get them well enough that they no longer need it. I had a hospice nurse tell
Yeah.
me, "We're not bringing any more people to your house because you take them off our service all the time." And she was joking a little, but, the incentive is to
Yeah.
keep them on, and if they pass away
Yeah.
2 days into hospice, I believe they get pretty much the same pay as if they kept them for, like, 6 months or so. So what's the incentive is to get them gone early and let's open the bed for the next person. And I think, like, I deal with some Medicaid people, um, and I get the sicker they are, the higher level of compensation I receive. So if they're walking around
Mhm.
and just have a little dementia, I get the lowest level of compensation. If they're
Mhm.
bedbound and need help feeding themselves and need a Hoyer lift to get them out of bed, I get the highest level. So I've had people come in at the highest level, I get them well or better, and I get docked in pay. Now, I can't look at
Mhm.
myself in the mirror to say, "Well, I'm gonna make you sicker so I can get more money." But I just
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
how many other people are like, "Oh, don't make them better, we're gonna lose money if they you do
Mhm.
that." So the
Well,
incentive
yeah.
should be you get a bonus if you meet parameters to make them better, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the incentives are completely the other way, and I think that trickles down to the culture in hospitals and healthcare
Yeah.
in general.
It's like they say, "A patient healed is a customer lost." And
It's so
right?
true.
And
Mhm.
that's really scary, and, when our dad it was interesting because, we were saying from day 1 there was a physical therapist came in and assessed him, a young girl, and I don't think she knew enough. I think they probably got mad at her because she was enthusiastic about his strength, and she said on day 1, she said, "I think he's a good candidate for acute rehab." 87 years old, right? I
Yeah,
I
that's
I
great.
kind of wonder if she got in trouble for telling us that because
That's a testament to
right?
you
And
working
she
them out.
and she was yeah, I said, "Well, he spends all his time at Camp Mary," you know? And so but it was interesting because, she told me 2 places, one of which was local to that hospital, and I had experience with that, and I was like, I'll never go there." And the other one was an hour away, and the very next day, I drove to that other facility and toured it, and I gotta tell you, it was incredible. It's called Sheltering Arms. It's in Richmond, Virginia, and we went, and from that day, that was the goal, and we told, the staff at the hospital. He was at UVA Medical Center, and, we told them, and it was almost like you could tell, like, they were first of all, the fact that we were there 24/7 did not sit well with them.
Right.
We hardly ever left his side. And
That's awesome.
and then we just kept telling them, "He's going to sheltering arms. We want him better. We want him up. We want him walking. We will get his blood pressure under control." That was the other thing. They wanted to medicate, 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 and they would come in the room and take his blood pressure, and it would be high, and they would want to medicate, and we were constantly saying, "Stop. No.
Right.
Let's lie him down, elevate his feet, let's get him relaxed. Better yet, how about if you let him go outside?" You know? Like, there's ways, have you thought about the fact that you're standing here in a white coat pulling and poking on him, that could make his blood pressure go up? Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
And, so it's just we were constantly advocating for him, but it was almost as though they had a chip on their shoulders against us wanting and insisting that he was gonna be moving into acute rehab. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
it was very interesting. It was an interesting dynamic, and, and then when he
Mhm.
got to rehab, we were like little refugees because we were so traumatized from the hospital, and, it was crazy, they had to tell us, they're like, "You're at sheltering arms now, it's okay." It was
Yep.
so, anyway, I know I'm talking a lot and this is an interview, but I think what we're talking about, it's more of a discussion, I guess, a conversation because, my experience is directly tied to what you're doing because you're preventing people from ending up in these situations, or you're trying to, and
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
part
I
of your
get a
vision,
lot
right?
that are already in that situation, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm working to curtail it as much as I can. I mean, I'd always love to get people as early on in their
Mhm.
disease journeys as possible, would have the
Yeah.
most success, but, I'll take them wherever I can get them and do everything I can. There's no guarantees, but it
Right,
sure
right.
seems a lot better to exhaust, eating well, exercising, doing some other therapies.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
saunas in our room in our homes,
Mm.
red light therapy. I'm actually going to meet with the state legislature tomorrow to see if I can get some mild hyperbaric oxygen
Okay.
therapy in my homes because right now our Department of Health prohibits that. So we're trying to overturn that and let it in. I know
Good,
that you go
good.
online, you can't find a single case of anyone being hurt by mild hyperbaric
Right,
oxygen.
right,
Tons of people have them in their homes. Yes, you need a doctor's prescription for it, but you need a doctor's prescription for a wheelchair too, So
right. Yeah.
um, it's kind of silly, but this is the fight we've got to have. And I was told the Department of Health's already opposing the bill. So, you know, you're the Department of Health. Like I have the Department of
Health,
Health inspect
health.
me. Health,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, definitely not help. I have the
yeah.
Department of Health inspect me, and they're like, "Wow, your residents are," they look around, "Your residents are doing really well." And I'm like, "Would you like to know what I'm doing?" And they're
Mhm.
like, "No, no, we're just here to check the paperwork. We're here for compliance reasons." And I'm like, "But you're the Department of Health, and my residents are
Yeah.
healthy, and a lot of the other places you go to, they aren't healthy.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you like
Mhm.
to know the difference and maybe gear
Yeah.
your regulations to something that might help people?" No,
Yeah.
no, we have
Yeah.
our set of regulations. This is what we do. And I just like the system is so set in its ways, and
Mhm. Mhm. It's
no
it's
one wants to
maddening.
change
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, like, one of the therapists told me, when we got to the rehab place, they said, I guess they said he's one of the oldest people we have because typically most people his age don't have the strength to get into a facility like ours. And I said, well, what would be the alternative? And they said he would be in like just a regular nursing home with hardly any rehab. And because most people, they just, they can't even stand up. They don't have the musculature to be able to do what we do here, because it was like 3 hours a day of intense rehab for him. And
Mhm.
I mean, the place we were at, they had like, spinal injury patients with robotics, crazy, amazing stuff. And I
Wow.
mean, they had my dad up walking day 1 with, a
Nice.
suspension, uh,
Like a
harness.
puppet thing? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I call it it's like a Johnny jump up. If you ever had kids and
Yes.
you put them
I
in the
got 3 of
doorway,
them.
well, this one, it slides on a track in the ceiling right outside
Nice.
his room in the hallway. And
Wow.
they just came, got him, put him in the harness, and then they're walking along with him day 1.
Awesome.
Yeah, but it was really it was very eye-opening, and I've already had this desire to promote health and this curiosity, and this experience certainly gave me more passion about it, and which is another reason that I'm so enthusiastic about what you're doing, and I hope that you do get uh, to have more influence on what they decide to do because our elderly are such a treasure and they've become a throwaway part of society, and that's not okay. I grew up around a lot of elderly relatives and I have a deep appreciation for them, and I don't like what they're doing to the elderly. I
Right.
don't.
I mean, I have the honor, I've helped a pilot from the Berlin airlift. I had a guy in my home that was a POW in Hanoi for 5.5 years.
Wow.
I had a guy who made a fortune flipping cattle ranches in northern Canada. He'd buy, distressed ones, make
Yeah.
them really good, and resell them. And he started
Crazy.
his married life that he and his wife lived in a chicken coop in northern Canada. He said it was pretty cold in the winter, didn't
Oh
have any
my.
insulation.
I
So, I mean,
imagine.
the stories we had, one of my friends had Fred Astaire's dance partner in his home. It
Wow.
just, I mean, you've got incredible people who had unbelievably successful life. I have a lady who was a backup singer on the show Hee Haw in the '70s in my home
Oh, I
currently.
remember that show.
Yeah, so and she knows Roy Clark personally. Her kids are like, "Oh, yeah, we used to have him over for dinner all the time." Um, and the stories, those all die with those people, and it's just
Yeah,
really sad because these guys are the ones who built our civilization. The reason we live as well as we do these days is because of them,
yeah,
and we just don't
yeah.
reward them or care for them. They were the ones who
Mhm.
wiped your bottom when you were, unable
Yeah,
to crawl.
yeah.
And now you're just gonna turn around and put them in a home, and it's really sad.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, we lived multi-generational when I was growing up, and we lived with my grandparents, my mom, and, that obviously had an impact on me, and then we also spent a lot of time with my grandmother's siblings, our great aunts. It was just a
Wonderful.
part of our life, and then I distinctly remember being, with my grandmother's father, so my great-grandfather, he was old, he had, like, snowy white hair, he had diabetes, I remember that because I remember the smell of the insulin, right?
Oh, yeah.
But he loved he first he was very drawn to me, and I remember even as a young child, they would put me up on his bed, and, I was maybe 2 years old. It was one of my earliest memories was of being in the room with him and, just being there, you know?
Right,
And that was it was not unusual, like, we weren't segregated, it wasn't that, you weren't keeping the kids away and
right.
putting the elderly in a d like, he was in the main room in the middle of the house, he was in the sunroom, and
Mhm,
so anytime you went anywhere in the house, you would see, granddaddy, and,
mhm.
um, and that was normal, So,
Very much so. My
yeah.
grandfather lived at my parents' house for a long time too.
Yeah, yeah. So I really want to get back to that. And right now we
Mhm,
have we have my nephew living here. So my dad's grandson, which is
mhm.
great. So we do have 3 generations in the house and
Awesome.
it really makes a difference. So but let's get back. I have a question from the Rumble, and this is really getting to the heart of what you're doing. Let's see. Julish says, she wants to know basically like, what is it you do for the elderly and how would you change the status quo in rehabs?
Um,
Good
s
question.
Yeah, so the first thing I do is change their diets. I'm sure when your stepdad was in the hospital, you weren't thrilled with what he was eating there.
That's a
Um,
whole 'nother conversation. Yeah.
right. I don't, we don't have to, but I'm saying for
Yeah.
rehabs, any medical establishment, go into a hospital, look at their snack bar, look at the vending machines and what they have in them. One of my favorites pictures on the internet is a picture in Boston Hospital of a sign in the hospital, and it said oncology straight ahead, and right underneath it, it says Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm just like, that doesn't bother anyone. So I think
Yeah.
diet
Yeah.
is the number one
Okay.
thing. I would bring a low carb diet. I would eliminate as much sugar as I could. There's 65 names for sugar, and products you buy at the grocery store that say sugar free, they just use one of those other names. So, like
Mhm.
maltodextrin, sucrose, fructose,
Yeah.
they can put that name on the product and say it's sugar free because it doesn't say sugar
Mhm.
on the ingredients. Yeah, schools, prisons, everywhere needs to improve the diet. Everything that is regulated by the government improve their diet, as well as a lot of households, frankly. But this is a
Mhm.
free country. You eat what you want.
Yeah.
The next thing I would do is get people moving a lot more. I mean, I think the internet is a wonderful thing, but it's also ruined everyone that they sit in front of screens all day.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a huge fan of exercise, always have been. I always thought I could outwork a bad diet when I was younger and learned that's not true. Um, but
Yeah.
I would say I hired a personal trainer. At first, I tried to charge people extra for it, and a lot of people would say, I don't want to pay for that for my mom or dad. And so I
Mm.
just decided I'm going to pay for that, and it's included in the price. So your
Okay.
mom or dad's
Okay.
going to exercise. So, like you
That's
said,
good.
walking, sunshine,
Yeah.
fresh air,
Yeah.
get them out. The hospitals are very concerned about liability. And even if you can walk, I had to go to the hospital for a football injury one time, and they kept
Mhm.
me in bed for
It's
a couple
awful.
days.
It's
And I was in
awful.
great shape in high school, playing football, wrestling,
Yeah.
you know, and you sit in bed, your fitness level drops dramatically. For an older
Mhm.
person, it's horrible.
Not to
So,
mention pressure sores. It's a real
yes.
danger.
Yeah, exactly, and if you can get them out, then the caregivers don't have to sit there trying to roll them over and put pillows under them and all that kinda
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
exercise is the next thing I would do. The sunshine, I think, is very important. It's easy for me to say in
Mhm.
Arizona. I moved down here from Minnesota, and I don't recommend bathing suits in January there, but,
Yeah.
I would say sunshine and fresh air. I think during COVID, it was egregious that our government told people to stay inside,
Yeah.
watch Netflix when they should be outside exercising,
Yeah.
especially when the virus doesn't get to you when you're outside. So,
Yeah, that was
then
crazy.
and
Yeah.
then there's a lot of other therapies. I would say a big thing is test a lot of your markers. We do a bunch of dementia protocols.
Mhm.
There's a very famous neurologist named Dr. Um, Dale Bredesen. We don't do his protocol. I've been warned not to say we do it, but what he's doing is researching, and he's had a lot of success mitigating and even in some cases reversing dementia with a approach of better diet and exercise
Mhm.
and other
Mhm.
therapies that aren't pharmaceutical. And what you need to do is test, you know, inflammation and um, insulin resistance are huge drivers of lots of chronic diseases.
Mhm.
What I'm finding, and I'm no doctor and this isn't medical advice, but um, heart attacks don't happen because of cholesterol. They happen because of your insulin resistance. Um, you used to have very people with very high cholesterol 30, 40 years ago that never got a heart attack. So insulin resistance is a big factor in Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
They're calling it type 3 diabetes now.
I've seen that,
Um,
yeah.
so get your A1C checked, get your HRC, what is it? I forget, something CRP checked. That's a
C
marker
is
of
that the
inflammation.
C-reactive protein?
C-reactive protein,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, I've seen that,
Get
and
your omega-6 to
yeah.
omega-3 ratio. There's a whole bunch of
Mhm.
tests you can
Mhm.
go see how you're
Yeah.
doing. Get a CAC score.
Mhm.
That'll tell you if you're going to have a heart attack or not. If
Mhm.
you're at
Yeah.
0, don't worry about your cholesterol. You're going to be fine. And again, not medical advice, but I'm just saying, get
Yeah.
those testing, get, eat well, and it doesn't have to be religious or anything, but just get the sugar out of your life.
Mhm.
It's not it's I have a ton of people come and, with dementia, and they're all sugar addicts. And,
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
thing is your dental health. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that periodontal disease, will migrate to your heart and brain and cause heart
Mm,
problems and cognitive decline.
interesting.
So, uh, everyone I have once you start hearing that and you meet people with dementia, look at their teeth. I bet they're not
Wow.
pearly whites, let's put it that way. You
Interesting.
know, a lot of
Wow.
them have the dentures and things like that. Go to your dentist, get a
Mhm.
cone beam
Mhm.
scan. That'll be able to reveal a lot of, soft tissue infections that, you don't know about. I would say get a, if you have any root canals, get rid of them. 'Em. They're almost always infected. Get an implant instead,
Mhm.
if you can afford it at all, but you can, and being in Arizona, you can go down to Mexico and get them. But take care of your teeth as much as you can
Yeah.
because 'cause it'll take care of your body.
That's
Those are
interesting. Yeah, and I think that ultra people are becoming more aware of ultra processed foods. So even if you're doing a like a ketogenic diet, be very careful about buying packaged foods that just say keto friendly or ketogenic. Anything that
right.
comes in a bag or box with a whole bunch of ingredients, that's are you finding that you encourage people to stay away from those types of
Right.
foods?
Yeah,
Okay.
we try to encourage one ingredient foods. When you buy
Okay.
broccoli, it says broccoli. When you buy
Yeah.
steak, it says steak as the
Right.
ingredient, right? That's a
Yeah.
one ingredient food.
Yeah.
And like you that's a great point you bring up. When I started getting the caregivers to do keto, I came over one day and there's the smell of chocolate chip cookies in the oven, and I was like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "It's keto. We're doing fine. But then you look on the ingredients list and you
Yeah.
see there's sugar and all kinds of bad stuff, and they just like to say
Sure.
keto. You know,
Yeah.
there's no regulations that on what you can say is
Mhm.
keto and what
It's a
not. So
selling
that a
point.
lot of they'll say keto friendly or something like
Mhm.
that. What
Mhm.
you really need to
Interesting.
do is look at the ingredients list and see, Google the names for sugar and then look on the
Mhm.
ingredients list and see what it is. And a lot of
Yeah.
the, poor people program, the SNAP program, the EBC or whatever that is to get
Mhm.
free food.
EBT, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Those
Mhm.
are you can go buy Coca-Cola with that. You
I
know,
know. Yeah.
if we're gonna pay for your food, we're gonna tell you what to eat, kind of is my
Yeah.
impression.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Mhm.
If you're okay, I wanna take a quick break, and then we'll come back for a few more minutes and
Sure.
close out. Is that good? Or do
That
you
sounds great.
All right. We talk a lot about health on the show, so we're going to find out about one of our providers, one of our partners that can help you to get the blood work that Hal is talking about. And that's our friends over at Synapse. I'm going to put this up here. This is officialsynapse.com. They are really good. And Dr. Troy will actually be on the show on Saturday morning doing a live Q&A. Everybody loves him. He is a functional medicine doctor, and we're gonna see his ad here in just a second, but that's the code, QR code, you can scan that. The other thing we're focusing on this week, speaking of one ingredient, this month, one of our sponsors of the show this month is our friends over at griddownchowdown.com, and guess what the ingredient in this package is? Beef.
Nice.
This is beef. It's just 100% beef. It's freeze dried, and you add water, and you have ground beef, and you can make whatever you would normally make with ground beef. It's in this package, and people love this because you can stockpile it, you can rotate it through your weekly menu, you can keep some for when there is a potential apocalypse, whatever. And what these guys are doing right now for us is that if anybody buys a 12 serving subscription, that's like a monthly or bi-monthly delivery, anything like that, they're giving you 4 free servings when you use the code Mary Grace. And we want everybody to take advantage of that. It's griddownchowdown.com. Do the subscription model. So that's the subscribe and save kind of thing. And then they're going to add 4 free servings. But let's listen to what they have to say I love these companies. They have been very good to us, and anytime you buy from them, you're helping an American company, you're helping preserve American farmland, you're helping keep American businesses going. We'll be right back after we watch these.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and this is my brother. And I'm Nace, and we're at the Grid Down Chowdown. And this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with. Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
what it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com. Americans spend more now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We've put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Sproul and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to officialsynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's Official Synapse, SYNAPSE.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that we're making it through. My employees and I want to thank you for your continued support by extending our wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.98. But it gets even better. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows $29.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including my standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98, Kings only $1 more. Not only that, order $75 or more, ship absolutely free. From all of us here at MyPillow,
I think people underestimate the value of a good night's sleep. And we definitely have been very happy with our MyPillow products here at the house. They have more than just pillows. I don't know if you've gotten them, but they're amazing.
I
And
sleep on one every night.
yeah, we have the little travel pillows, which I love, and, I take those whenever I go anywhere, but the sheets and the towels are amazing. So,
Oh.
please remember also as you're coming up to, before you know it, graduation and wedding season and all of that, uh, this is great. You can buy directly from My Pillow, uh, and, you can get sheets, towels, blankets, all kinds of bedding, but they have clothing, slippers, pet beds, etcetera, and we love supporting this company because they've been so good to our country, but also to podcasters. They have really stood behind us and helped us to get our message out. So please support mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. Okay, here we go. We're back with Hal Cranmer, and Hal is doing something revolutionary with the aging population in his assisted living homes, a paradise for parents. Now, right now, you're only in Arizona. Everybody wants you to be in multiple states,
I
but
get calls.
I think one thing that I would encourage is if you are in a position that you might be able to open a facility like this, I would encourage you to look at what Hal is doing, because there's no reason that somebody couldn't invest in something like this in your own state and or your city and bring this to other people if this is something that you might be passionate about, because you didn't really have a background in this per se
No,
before you did it, right? And,
no.
everybody may hear a little bit of noise, and that's our cat, Barley George, and my audience is familiar with him. He's a talker. So, if you hear what sounds like crying, that's Barley George. Okay, uh, just have to give that disclaimer. Okay. Yeah, tell us a little bit. I think we were talking about, I guess, what you do, how you do it. But I wanted to know, we were talking about diet. Do people have to get to give you the agreement or the buy-in before they come into the facility? What's that like? Telling them this is how we eat.
Yeah, I just had a tour today, to have them move in, and they liked everything they saw, but the mom was like, "Wait, I can't have sweets?"
Mhm.
So it's a conversation. We work with a cook named, Maria Emmerich. Actually, I work with
Yes.
a nutrition coach who's certified by Maria Emmerich, I should say, but we use all of Maria's, cookbooks, and she has some recipes to make, like, peanut butter fat bombs and stuff that are
Mhm.
3 grams of carbs each, and the
Yeah.
sweetness comes from a little artificial low-carb sweetener,
Mhm.
and it's mostly got fat in it. We try to get our people in ketosis. Fat doesn't really spike your blood sugar, and
Mhm.
so we try to encourage our people to eat a lot of healthy fat. So we make it easier to transition
Yeah.
to the low carb lifestyle by making stuff. In fact, I freaked out tonight. I was at one of the homes and um, I thought they were serving spaghetti, and I called the caregiver who cooks and says, "What are you doing giving them spaghetti?" And she said, "Sir, those are zucchini noodles that we got out of Maria's cookbook." And I'm like, "Wow, it fooled me." So she's like, "Yeah, it's 5 grams of carbs per serving."
Okay.
So
Wow.
with ground beef sort of in a sauce.
Yeah.
So, um,
We've done
there's
that.
ways to
Yeah.
hide it. We do have
Mhm.
people who want nothing to do with it, and we sort of have a little locked in corner of the pantry and fridge for them. I haven't got to the point yet where I've got all enthusiastic families who wanna do this.
Mhm.
Some of our families just want assisted living, and some of them have been with us for years before I really started this. I mean, I got like you said, I was a pilot until 9/11 and lost my airline job, and then, I
Mm.
was in manufacturing for 20 years. So it took me a couple of years just to learn the business before I could start
Sure.
doing specialized stuff like this.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Yeah.
I'd also like to mention, if it's all right, I've
Sure.
got together with a bunch of doctors and health coaches and people that, have helped me tremendously, and we're putting on a seminar right near my assisted living homes on
Oh, okay.
Saturday, and everyone can join it. It's basically take charge of your health and how to
Okay.
do that and how to get off medications and how to live your whole life at home as in a healthy state. If you go to azlowcarb.com, you could sign up there.
Okay.
It's like 20 bucks. That's going to pay for
Mhm.
all our IT support and things like that. We don't make any money. If we make anything, we donate it to the American Diabetes Society, not the American Diabetes Association. And
This is the one that Ken Berry is behind?
yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so if you're interested, and everyone who attends or if you sign up, it'll be recorded and sent out to
Okay.
you as well.
Okay.
So if you can't make it. But yeah, I'm trying to get the word out as much as I can, and I've got a bunch of people in my network who are phenomenally smart about all this stuff, and we're all working to get the word out.
That's great. That's great. I put that link in the chat so people
Awesome.
can go check that out. Yeah. That's very
Thank you.
exciting. So do you think in terms of time frame, I mean, I know that they're gonna fight RFK, his nomination, which is very sad, right? But the money and the lobbyists, the big food, big pharma, they are so entrenched and they have such a deep hold on a strong hold on Senate and Congress, which is very sad. And and then of course the media is still in the tank for so many of them. But in terms of let's just say that he does get confirmed, which we really hope he does. What would you see as a time frame, a realistic time frame for seeing a turnaround in the policies and the messaging for America overall? I mean, the food pyramid you mentioned might be changing. What do you see as a time frame for that?
Well, 2 weeks ago, I probably would have told you I'm not very optimistic just because of the inertia and, nothing really changes in government. You get politicians promising the world, and then they get
Yeah.
there and they just vote along party lines, and it's usually to take our money and give it to someone else. So, the last 2 weeks have been absolutely nuts with Trump, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking it might happen faster.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing with RFK getting in there is that people aren't afraid to question doctors anymore. People aren't afraid to
Mhm.
question medical standard of care, things like that.
Right.
So I think seeing the CDC change their way of having their studies sponsored by Pfizer might take a while because that's going to be a big battle that RFK is going to have to wage, and I'm
Mhm.
sure there's going to be a
Mhm.
lot of court battles that the court's going to go, you can't do that, RFK.
Mhm.
And but I think having him there and having everyone having gone through COVID, there's there are people like me that are just trying to, we're going to try new stuff and we're
Mhm.
going to find
Mhm.
ways around it. I mean, my business is very highly regulated as to what prescription medications we can give them, but their big regulation on food is to have a menu posted so that people know what they're eating for the week. They don't really care what's on the menu. So, I
Mhm.
think you're gonna see a fertile ground for many entrepreneurs, many
Mhm.
thought leaders, maybe people like you podcasting and getting the word out, and
Mhm.
people going to the grocery store and not buying the crap and
Yeah.
demanding more steak and more fresh vegetables and things like
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
to take charge of their own health and not,
Yeah. Yeah.
say, "I'll just party till I get sick and then go in for a pill."
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think that when we're in a when we can get the poison out, um, we can change, like, for example, when we have more people like Joel Salatin helping drive policy, um, as opposed to big ag and big food with all those additives, I feel like that will go a long way because I think it'll have a cumulative effect where people will start eating cleaner because the food that they're buying will be cleaner, even if they're not quite ready to go to one ingredient meals, they at least have a fighting chance with cleaner ingredients, right?
Right.
And then you start to see the benefits of, greater clarity, losing a little bit of weight, more energy, and then they're able to make better decisions, right? Because they have more mental clarity and they feel better. They don't feel like
Exactly.
crap all the time, and then you have this cumulative effect of trending toward wellness as opposed to sickness. And because I think when people start to feel the benefits, they don't necessarily know until they start feeling better how crappy they felt all that time. I
Yeah.
know, like, for me, switching to carnivore, when I stopped having anxiety, I didn't know that I had all that anxiety until I didn't have it, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that's gonna happen a lot.
I just had a little mini reunion with some of my pilot buddies from the Air Force, and everyone ordered water when we went out to the restaurant. I mean, we have that reunion 20 years ago, it was the beer would be flowing all night long, and we'd go out and do
Yeah.
something stupid. So now it's like, "Hey, I'm doing carnivore. What are you doing?" And I found this supplement. It's really good. You'd think that we
Yeah.
all just had to stop ourselves going, "Can you imagine when we were 25 saying this to each
Mhm,
other?"
mhm.
It
But
never
the
happened. And my
twenty-five-year-olds now, I think, are
they
more
are
I mean, they have the advantage of all
seeing this.
this access to the information and also not
Mhm.
being flat out lied to. When I was in my 20s, I was told by a nutritionist that fat was the enemy and that low fat, fat-free, replacing fat with basically sugars,
Yeah.
for flavor was the key, and it really damaged my metabolism, and I think a lot of people, who thought they were doing the right thing. And so I'm hopeful about this, that this generation coming up is going to get accurate information and information that's gonna help them metabolically, and they're not gonna have to be reversing all of this when they hit 40s and 50s. That's my hope. But, again, we're talking about Gen X and boomers and beyond, because that's the population that you serve, and
Mhm.
it's very exciting. It's exciting to see what you're doing and that people are coming to you in the second, in the backside of their lives, I guess, and turning things around and getting better, which is so opposite of
Right.
everything that they're told to expect. That's very
Mhm.
hopeful. It's very encouraging, and
Well,
I can tell my audience is encouraged by this too. We're live and people are listening and loving what you're talking about.
cool. Well, I think when I was a kid, I remember people saying, "If you ever get diabetes, you'll have it for life. You can't do anything
Mhm.
about it."
Yeah.
And thanks to the internet and a lot of spreading of information, you find
Mhm.
out, no, that's not true. I mean, if you have type 1 diabetes, that's true. But even type 1 diabetes can be very well controlled with a
Mhm.
right diet and lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
type 2, we reverse type 2 all the time in our assisted living homes. We get people off insulin, get them off metformin, things like that. And
Mhm.
then clears up a lot. I have a nurse in my was a resident in my home. She came to us weighing 460 pounds. She'd
Wow.
never heard of the ketogenic diet. She'd been a nurse for 35 years,
Mhm.
and we put her on it. She's lost about 140 pounds so far in about 8 months,
Wow.
and she's starting to walk again. She was bedbound, and to think that she was in the nursing profession for
Yeah.
35 years, and she said,
Yeah.
"We never talked about diet. We just go to the snack bar at the hospital for our late
Mhm.
night shift and eat there."
Yeah.
And I just think that's really sad that the
Mhm.
people who are telling you about your health don't know
Yeah.
about diet.
Listen, the nutritionist at the hospital, when they put a feeding tube in my dad, I met with him and I told him basically what you just talked about, right? We do low carb. Um, I want to limit that. Whatever you're feeding him, I want it to be, high protein, high fat. And then they brought in, the mixture that they were putting in the feeding tube. And I kid you not, first three ingredients were some form of sugar, fructose. And I mean, I
Can I tell you a little story about
I
that?
hit the roof. I mean, I gotta
Yeah.
say it was not pretty. I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
You flat out lied to me. Like, you just
Right.
stood there and said, yeah, sure, well, yeah, uh-huh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolute just didn't
This is what the
didn't care.
industry recommends.
Nutritionist. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's a wonderful company. Unfortunately, the lady who started it sold it, but her dad fell on some ice and hit his head and went into a coma.
Mm,
And the doctors put a feeding tube on him, and she did like you, looked at the ingredients, saw it was sugar and other ridiculous ingredients, and she said, "Do you mind if I make something for him?"
mhm,
And the doctor said, "Well, he's got just a couple weeks to live." So sure, whatever you wanna make them. So she went home and made an extremely organic, very low carb, good, formula, put it in his feeding tube. He not only did he wake up, but he lived another 20 years. And, they would
Wow.
have killed him in a couple weeks with the feeding tube formula they had. So she thought this was cool. She started a company. It's called Functional Formularies, if anyone wants to know.
Okay.
They sell feeding tube formula that's really good organic stuff. They sell a vegan version. I don't know if they sell can fit a carnivore version down the tube, but, it's very
Wow.
low carb, low sugar kinda stuff. It's fantastic for all people. It's fantastic for kids with autism. I don't get any stake with this
Mhm.
company. I just love that
Interesting.
lady's
Yeah.
story, and she used to call it Liquid Hope, but the FDA came in and said, "You can't label your product with the word hope." So she had to change it to functional formulary, but, still go to functionalformularies.com if you need it. And
That's
there are ways
amazing.
to get insurance to pay for it. It's kind of expensive, but you can get your
Wow.
insurance to pay for it in many cases.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because
I'd
somebody on
recommend that
Facebook
to
is commenting on
everyone.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Functional formulary or formularies?
I think it's Formularies is the website, but
Let me
Google
look
it
that
and
I'm gonna look it
it'll
up.
come up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I think she
amazing.
sold it to someone else, but, I think they still have wonderful and if you go to their Facebook page, there's unbelievable testimonies of "You helped my son's autism, my dad woke up from his coma," blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
everything. So,
Functionalformularies.com, that's
yeah.
amazing, yeah. This is the kind of thing, and this is why I love doing what I do because we can get the word out to so many people about what's available and what's possible, and, um, you know, we like I said, they switched my dad's food over to basically more of a protein-based, I interestingly, like the plant-based version, and
Mhm.
I just thought it was so ironic. I was like, what was the other crap?" Like, were there, like, you know,
Yeah.
why
You
I
don't
don't
want us to
even
give them the junk food stuff.
I don't
Give
even
them the
wanna
better
know what
stuff.
was in it. Yeah, but it was just it was I mean, I felt so I told them, I said, I really feel betrayed because,
Mhm.
I had a sincere conversation with you guys, and you sat there and assured me that you would do exactly what I'm asking, and you didn't. I mean, it's blatantly, obviously not what I asked.
Right.
And so and I think a lot of people feel that way, and, one thing you and I were talking about prior to this when we were talking about, you know, you mentioned that RFK is being well received because people are not afraid now to stand up and to look for the truth and to ask questions. And I think in general, in the last week, we've seen Americans standing up and saying, "Enough is enough. We're gonna say what we want. We're going to express what we feel and believe, and we're not worried anymore about being canceled. We're done. We're over it. We're done. Done.
Right.
We're
Right.
done being labeled and, browbeaten and bullied by a tiny minority that wants us to shut up." And we're seeing that. I'm seeing it everywhere I turn. Especially in my Facebook, all the comments I get on Facebook, I mean, they're beyond done being told that they're stupid and that they're, racist or intolerant or whatever, like all that done, done with the
Right.
labels. And that to me is a good sign because when I think that RFK is coming into um, a situation that is ripe for change and that people are ready to receive it, right?
Yeah.
It's really, tremendous. Sherry is asking, "Do you help cancer patients?" Now, Sherry, Hal is not a doctor. He has
Yes, definitely, I'm
but
not.
what I recommend is that you do reach out to Synapse, to our friends at Official Synapse. They do work with cancer patients, and, uh, depending on your situation, I would just recommend that you schedule a free discovery call, let them know what's going on, let them know what protocol you're working with, and then see if it's a good fit for you. And you know, Dr. Troy told me that they do have um, they do have a fund, because everything that they do is out of pocket. Don't be intimidated by thinking, "Oh, I can't afford that." If you're in a situation where it's obvious that you need what they're offering, they work with patients all over the country and in multiple foreign countries. Um, it Just reach out to them, talk to them, set it up, tell them Mary Grace sent you, and then see what happens. I we can't obviously we can't tell you here what to do. This is for informational purposes only. Neither one of us is a doctor or medical professional, and even if we were, we're not your doctor. And
Right.
so that's the key. You do need to work with an established medical professional, and that's Synapse. That's what they do. We've had a lot of people go to them, and it's been a tremendous experience. I'm working with them with my autoimmune condition, so it's very helpful. They're a great practice, and they're expanding around the country as well. So it's a great time. It's a great time to be alive. So Hal Cranmer, we're coming up. We've actually been talking for over an hour. The time flies, the conversation goes so quickly. Um, and anybody who's following us today, remember to share this. This is such valuable information. Get it out to everybody in your own circle. You can send them the link, you can repost, you can share it to your wall, whatever it is, wherever you're watching. If you're coming back for the replay, tell us what your thoughts are about this and about the changes that you see coming. What are you hoping for? What are you expecting? Uh, and let us know in the chat and in the comments when you come back. Is there anything that you want to share with our listeners before we sign off for today?
The biggest thing I'd say is take charge of your own health. If you have a loved one, a lot of the older generation, when they go to the hospital, I know I have some relatives who pick their doctors based on physical attractiveness. I give them a hard time all the time. But if the doctor tells them to do something, they will do it. And you
Yeah.
need to be there with your relative or family member to take charge of their health. My wife is phenomenal at it. Um, but have an advocate with you when you go to the hospital, but try everything you can not to go to the hospital. Eat right, exercise, get the sunshine, do all the things that you know is the right thing to do. And, everything else in life is going to be better if you've got good health.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. And I always say, go outside, touch some grass, look at the sky.
Yes,
And
we do grounding too. That's
okay, yeah, that's
walk barefoot
important.
in the grass.
Yeah, and even if you don't have grass, walk in the ground. Just watch out for fire ants. I've
Yeah.
found that out the hard way. So
Yes, especially if
yeah,
you're in Florida.
yeah, we get them in Virginia too. But
Um,
but yeah, there's so much you can do that doesn't cost extra. And
right.
that's the key too, and, like, just walking every day, and then if you're older, work on your balance. One of the things that I think is the most valuable for anybody as they're aging is get up, get on the floor every day, and get off the floor every day, and as long as you can do that, then you can keep doing it, and then if you fall, you're less likely to fall, and then if you do, you can get up, and it's amazing how few people can actually do that. Even my age, they can't get off the floor, which is kinda
Right.
scary, right? So start with that. You'd be amazed at how much that works your body. And if you can't get on the floor, like, if you can't start there, start by getting on a stool, right? And then standing up without your hands, things like that. It's just little things. So, um, we could go down many rabbit trails here, but we will sign off here. A Paradise for Parents in Arizona. This is, Hal's, um, business and his assisted living homes. Where can people follow you?
Um, that's a paradiseforparents.com. The A, don't forget the A at the front. And then I'm just Hal Cranmer on Twitter. I post a lot there. We have a Paradise for Parents Assisted Living Facebook page. And I write like a newsletter of what we're doing in our homes and interesting things I find out to help not just the elderly, but everyone, or maybe I have some rants about government healthcare. And I have a handout that sort of helps people. Here's what you can do to help mitigate your risk for dementia if you go to fightmemoryloss.com. And you can sign up for my web thing, and I have a download. If you're interested in the carnivore diet too, I have a carnivoreonabudget.com handout or little ebook of how you can save money on the carnivore diet too.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, lots of resources. Tell us that website one more time.
All right,
The
fightmemoryloss.com is to sort of how to mitigate dementia based on what I've seen research wise. And then the carnivore,
Mhm.
save money on carnivore, is carnivoreonabudget.com.
Perfect. Okay. I'm putting those in the chat. So great. Well, thank you to everybody in the chat who's been here tonight. Thank you for all of the live audience. Please remember to share this. And I will have I know for sure that I have a show coming on Saturday morning at 11. We're doing a live Q&A with Dr. Troy Sproul of officialsynapse.com. We also have a couple of other shows coming on. There's a lot of breaking news, as you know, with the Trump administration. So just bookmark everything. Go to marygracemedia.com and get on the mailing list so that you don't miss notifications. I send an email out before I do interviews like this. That way, it doesn't matter if social media fails you with notifications, you can get the email. And if you want to make sure they don't go to spam, put the email address in your address book, info@marygracemedia.com. Save that. And when the email comes, it will be in your trusted contacts, info@marygracemedia.com. We will be back soon. Everybody, thank you for being here and have a great night. Thank you again, Hal Cranmer. It's been a pleasure
My
talking
pleasure.
to you.
Pleasure's been all mine. And just one last time for the Metabolic Health Summit, it's
Sure.
azlowcarb.com too, if you want to join us on Saturday or get a recording.
Perfect. Yes.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mary.
Excellent. Excellent.